What's up guys, it's Richie Rich back yet again, and this time I'm gonna be doing a review of the 1999 summer blockbuster smash hit, and this is Godzilla. Be sure to check this out. Okay, so Godzilla from 1998. This was, as I remember, a really big occurred in the summer of 1998. What a lot of people don't know is this was made during the time of like the big era of the sci-fi smash hits. Like when Jurassic, this is what it leads on. When Jurassic Park hit in the early 90s, which was 1993, and it became like a super phenomenal hit. It's the first time ever like showcased like real actual like dinosaurs that could coexist with like human beings. And like the team that went to development that helped like bring Jurassic Park to life, they were given like so much tremendous accolades. They were very very much praised so much. So like, yeah man, due to like the big heavy success of the first Jurassic Park, a lot of, I wouldn't say like copycats, but a lot of like big budget like movies around that time heavily took like influence from Jurassic Park. Obviously Godzilla being one of them. You had like Starship Troopers that also appeared in the mid 90s. Independence Day, dealing with aliens but sci-fi big film, and Independence Day was the creators, as I said, Independence Day, Roland Emmerich, and I believe it was Dean Ken. I mean, they were heavily praised, because at this time, keep in mind, before this, when the original Godzilla, so if you took back like a step down memory lane, Godzilla was like heavily shown in Japan, in Asia, as similar to like when King Kong came out. There was plenty of like the Godzilla films like attacking like the folks who were in Japan. With like the success of Jurassic Park, with how they created dinosaurs, how the T-Rex was very intimidating, how realistic the raptors looked. You could definitely tell, like, obviously the studio here was heavily inspired to take what Godzilla was in the past to a new kind of like MTV updated direction, and that's what we get in this film, Godzilla 1998. Let me give you like like how the film initially got off the ground. So what happened was Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin, they were the creators who were behind the Independence Day. Independence Day came out 2 years before this in 1996, and featured my main man, 50 Grand, Will Smith, the Genie, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and also featured Jeff Goldblum, who appeared in Jurassic Park. So they were the two leads fighting like an alien threat, that was trying to wipe out the planet Earth. So it's a very kind of, obviously very 90s film. So to watch it now, like we're almost like 20 years after that film, it would shock like a few people to see like what they used to work with to make these big motion pictures. You know what I mean? But Independence Day wasn't it wasn't like greatly received. It was seen as a positive thing, like a positive film. What I mean? Like it just wasn't like to the whole board like such a like a great like all the film creators gave it like 2 thumbs up. It wasn't that case. It was just like a major summer blockbuster film, but they were able to recoup their money back, because this time, that time, I don't know when it kind of stopped though, but like for like summer blockbusters in the past, the advertising campaigns used to go very heavily, like full force, when a new movie, like a summer movie, I'll mention probably like Aladdin this year. Back in the day, like let's say the 90s as I remember it, you would have like serials with the movie reference there, you know, like a movie poster. You would have action figures. You would have like, and if you went to Burger King or any kind of these fast food restaurants, you would have like a, you know, if for instance Aladdin, kind of Aladdin meal to get. You would have billboards, probably would have helicopters, magazines, everywhere would put it in your face that this new movie's coming in the summer. If you cast your minds to when the Batman '89 film came out, all you had to do the time in the if you were going to New York City or you passed in LA, it just showed a big billboard of the Batman the Batman symbol. You know, that's the kind of approach that was taken with an Independence Day, and most importantly, it was the same kind of way they carried that on to the Godzilla film in 1998. And why I've mentioned this is this was Godzilla was one of the when I'm talking about marketing, it was marketed a year before, you know, before its release in 1998. So once Independence Day was over, Roland Emmerich and Dean Delphi, they already had signed. They signed the contract to, you know, produce and create Godzilla. You know what I mean? But like in between those years, like '96 to 1998, before it actually came out before it actually was released in 1998, you know, they went completely overboard with the you know, advertising. There's one trailer, and I think I even remember seeing this, you know, back in the day on cable. That's how old I am, you know. There's a trailer, like a 30-second trailer that was shown on commercials of like, I think there's a field trip going on, and the teacher's taking these students to like a museum exhibit, and you can see the T-Rex that was used in Jurassic Park, and then all of a sudden this glass shatters and a big foot slams on the T-Rex skeleton, and then you just see the big slogan, "Size does matter." And it just shows the you know, the title Godzilla, and the date is coming out, which is in 1998. You know, so and that was, you know, that was a year before. The whole thing was just that kind of like this was meant to be the new and supreme take of what like you know, like a dinosaur film is. The funny thing is, even though Godzilla isn't a dinosaur, they just went, you know, that route, you know, to just kind of like, you know, eliminate the competition. The scene like opens up with like kind of just like a slideshow of like, you know, clips of like nuclear testings that were happening back in the day in the South Pacific Ocean, you know, and the creatures that were around there, I believe they were iguanas. I hope I'm right with that. Iguanas is that looks like a, you know, lizard, pretty similar to what if anyone remembers The Simpsons, Marge's sisters, you know, she had like that pet lizard, yeah, one of them. So like they get exposed to the radiation that's caused from this big nuclear explosion, you know. This is like the first, you know, part of the scene. Then like the film skips on to like, you know, the present day, the current time in this film, and it shows like you know, this like submarine, it's a submarine, like a big like ship that's like, you know, going in the sea, you know, to catch fish, you know, obviously to, you know, fish to take back a stock, you know, and it gets attacked, you know, viciously gets attacked by this like, you know, from what we see like a, you know, a monster. And then like without like the movie with what I really like this film, the movie's always like it's always moving, you know what I mean, like at the early part, this is before they get to Manhattan, you know, New York City, which mainly the main plot of the film takes place. You know, we're introduced to Matthew Broderick, who is the lead in this. You know, if you know Matthew Broderick, it's a very it's weird to talk about Matthew Broderick because he's not like of course, like the biggest name. He's not, you would put in the same sentence as Johnny Depp or like a Tom Cruise. You know, I've only seen Matthew Broderick. He had like a teen breakout film. The name escapes me. I'll definitely try to find out. It was during the 80s. But I was first introduced to Matthew Broderick in Glory, when he played one of the colonels, you know, and, you know, Denzel Washington and Morgan Freeman were like the slaves fighting in that, I think it was the 45th or the 46th, the American Civil War. So that was the first time I was introduced to Matthew Broderick. And also the Cable Guy. you know, Matthew Broderick played there. So he's been in some selected films, you know, so, you know, movie like nerds like me would know Matthew Broderick, you know, and I feel like with him, they sometimes get like an unfair, like kind of bashing for his portrayal in this film, because he does feel like there are some scenes he feels like he's not like really kind of emotionally driven in this film. Like it's very generic. Like someone else could replace, you know, this film. Like you could probably put John Cusack in this film and replace it with Matthew Broderick. It wouldn't be any difference, you know. And it is kind of strange, you know, from like a film that's like a big blockbuster, you know, film that's being advertised that way. You know, they didn't have kind of a bigger name, but I think for what Matthew Broderick is, you know, he's like a scientist who collects like, you know, worms, you know, Dr. Nico Tatopoulos, you know, so he collects worms and he's there to help the military investigate on this you know, this new mutated lizard that it becomes Godzilla. Yeah, then like, you know, going with like the cast, you know, so I'll just take a brief break for the plot, you know, and just casting that. So the cast, like what a lot of people obviously recognize this. There's a lot of characters who the Simpsons that were in the 90s was, you know, probably the most top like legendary animated show. A lot of the voice actors that appeared from the Simpsons actually are in this film, you know, as the main as one of the main cast, you know. For example, the guy who plays Moses like Barney, Hank Azaria, who plays like, you know, selected characters. I think he plays Mo, Apu. I'm not sure if he plays Ned, but you know, few characters in Simpsons. And also Harry Shearer, who I believe plays Homer Simpson, Krusty, maybe Principal Skinner. Few other characters, and there's also another lady. She only appears briefly. She's working in the same organization that Harry Shearer's character is working in, and she voices like you know, Edna Krabappel and that. So it's just like a kind of you know, three voice actors from The Simpsons appears in this. You know, Maria Pitillo, you know, who to this day I've never seen her in anything else other than this film. You know, she's sort of the leading lady to like Matthew Broderick's character. You know, to this day I've not seen her in any other type of associated film or TV show. You know, she's completely new to me. You know, with again like with similar to Matthew Broderick in this, it's like I think they're just doing for what the film is, because I believe the film is basically supposed to focus on the title, which is Godzilla. You know what I mean? It's not like you know, like if it was a Star Wars film that is, you know, the whole thing is about, you know, the fight for the galaxy, but you got, you know, Han Solo playing Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill playing Luke Skywalker, you know, and Carrie Fisher going to play Layla. It's like, you know, big stars and that. I feel with this, it's like they wanted to focus way more on like the, you know, the threat and the big city of you know, Godzilla, you know. So I don't think they really went too much of like, you know, what Maria Pitillo's like, you know, resume, or, you know, Matthew Broderick's resume, you know. But I feel for like, you know, what the film is, I think you kind of you know, you're always rooting for them, you know what I mean. I think they do well for what's given, you know. But I definitely say the main you know, actor who kind of steals it is Jean Reno. You know, Jean Reno, who's a French actor. You know, you may have seen him in films like Pink Panther, and he was acting in a lot of films, you know, in France and that. He's the one who comes up to the man. I think the definitely most iconic scene. Yeah, he goes like, "What did you see, old man?" And the man's like, "Godzilla, Godzilla." You know, but the way Jean Reno delivers that, you know, because through the film, Jean Reno's like following Matthew Broderick's character. You know what I mean? So you're like, who's this guy? You know, who's this guy working for? Because the military in this, they become just so generic in the film. You know, just like anytime they see Godzilla, like, you know, they're gonna shoot him. You know, anytime, like when the film actually shifts from like, you know, from when they find out, you know, so they going back to like the earlier area, you know, where Matthew Broderick, you know, meets the leader of the military, and you see the big footprint that Godzilla left, you know, after he attacked the boat in the ocean. You know, Jean Reno's character is there, you know, with his like French, you know, French like you know, top tier people, you know. So they're just following and just watching him, you know. They're not really caring what the military, because the military is just all about seek and destroy. We find this like mutated lizard, we're just gonna like take him out, you know. But you know, Nicototopoulos was more trying to investigate because he's a scientist. He wants to see like the lizard's intention. You know, he was the one who was able to find out that which leads to the, you know, third act of the film, that the animal is able to produce offspring asexually. It means like he doesn't need I think it was a she. It doesn't need another partner. You know, it doesn't have to mate to make offspring. You know what I mean? Where, you know, the military didn't know too much. They didn't even know about the nest. You know, like Godzilla in this was, you know, he already made like about 200 infants in the, you know, the big like climactic scene in the Madison Square Garden. Yeah, man. So like with the Godzilla. So, you know, I've talked about, you know, certain characters, also like, you know, the plot, you know. I mean, with the Godzilla character, you know, I'll talk about this, you know, I'm gonna get to like, you know, the main star of this film, you know, Godzilla, you know, in like the you know, like the behind the scenes, you know, story of this. The original Godzilla design was basically meant to be just a touch-up version of the ones you were seeing in the 60s and 50s, the ones that would get made in Japan, you know, of where, you know, Godzilla stands upright, you know, he has like the big, I think it's the 3 spikes, he's got like the 4 like you know, 4 paws, you know what I mean, and it's like, you know, you walk like that, you know what I mean. What happened was, like, I believe, you know, Roland Emmerich and, you know, because it is their movie, Dean Delving, you know, they saw the images of that, and they didn't want that to kind of fit on this kind of new updated version. You know, sometimes you get movies where, you know, movies that are from back in the day, and it's not like they're trying to remaster it, but they're just trying to have their own take, you know. It happens all the time, even now, when you see, like, the new superhero craze films, you know. Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire is a complete different version to the Amazing Spider-Man. Still the same character, but it's just a different take that fits the director's needs. You know what I mean? So within here, it's like, because I've seen, you know, I've seen a bit of like the Godzilla films from back in the day, some of the, you know, clips, and it was really tremendous, you know, how they were able to like make these miniatures, you know, and show these like men's going, ah, Godzilla, you know. So it was in this one, like, you know, Dean Delvin and also Roland Emmerich, you know, they wanted to update the character of Godzilla, and I solely believe it was just to fit that MTV generation. You know, in this generation, you keep in mind, like, Pokemon was such a big deal, you know, and you know, Dragon Ball Z that also came out. So you know, kids were more used to that kind of like you know, Mondo Cool that was in Dragon Ball Z. You know, I don't think like the kids of the 90s would have really, you know, looked into Godzilla like from back in the day, like 70s, 60s, and been like, you know, this is so cool, you know, I can't wait to finish school or wait till the weekend and go see Godzilla, you know. I felt the design, you know, was a magnifier of, you know, the 90s, you know, it suited that kind of sci-fi, kind of futuristic look, you know, and I prefer it, you know. It's not like my best design, because I used to sketch a lot of like pictures of the big, like, you know, films, you know, for the 90s, you know, the posters and that, but it's like, you know, the Godzilla thing, I just feel like for what it is, you know, it being in Manhattan as well, you know, Manhattan, New York City, you know, in the 90s, I felt it very, you know, you know, it suited. Yes, you know, going to the mains, like going to the film's like main location setting. You know, after Godzilla has like, you know, Rampage, you know, the ocean and that, you know, the main place chunk of the film takes place in New York City, you know, and what I really love with you know, how it's taken, you know, how the film goes out in Manhattan, like Manhattan, New York City, is just the stunning visuals, you know, of it. You know, I mean, I've been to New York City, you know, Times Square twice. Once when I was a kid, and once, you know, not too long ago, the Obama years, You know what I mean? So I'm always taken aback when I go into you know, New York City, you know, and especially when I went the last time, I was always kind of remembering like, oh, that's where Godzilla like attacked that building, you know, that's where, you know, they smashed the Empire State Building and Godzilla ducked, you know what I mean? So it always brought like a lot of like kind of nostalgia, you know, watching Godzilla, watching this film again, you know. That being said, Godzilla in this film, he doesn't appear too much in this, you know, for a film that says Godzilla, you know. You know, most of the time when they're in New York City, they're just trying to plot and like find a plan, like when is Godzilla gonna show up, when's he gonna show up again, you know. They do this, you know, fantastic, like they get like a big barrels of fish to get Godzilla in the plane, you know, and it basically was just used for action scenes, so like the military could just pow them and they miss every shot, you know, and then Godzilla goes in hiding, you know. So it happens a lot once you get into Manhattan of, you know, especially for a creature that big, like how can he be hiding, you know. But there's many times like it's just waiting for Godzilla to appear, and you're just seeing the interactions from, you know, Matthew Broderick playing Nick, you know, Maria, you know, I think it's Audrey she's playing, but you know, they're kind of like romance, you know, and like, you know, what the military and also Jean Renault's like French pals are trying to do. For that, which I talk big, you know, like with the whole kind of like, you know, which had to be inspired from Lost World, you know, like the baby Godzillas, you know, that were basically created in the Madison Square Garden, you know. And like I said, it borrowed heavily influence from the Jurassic Park 2 Lost World, where they were fighting the raptors in that island just before they're able to carry it to safety in Jurassic World, you know. That was, if I had to like be like my kind of like just saying, like I never really did like the end part, you know. I think when I was a kid, you know, because I watched that when I was a kid the first time, I think I enjoyed it way more than now. Watching it as an adult, it does seem kind of you know, corny, and there is popcorn in this, you know. But it always felt like the especially like the CGI that was used to make Godzilla, when they applied that to the infant Godzillas, it just didn't have the same effects. And you can see scenes when the, you know, Matthew Broderick's character and the other, like, you know, French military are running away, and it's like it doesn't, you know, it doesn't parallel well, you know what I mean. It's like it's too different, you know what I mean. Like the CGI and the actual actors, it doesn't really mix well, and you can just kind of see like it just becomes more loose as the film goes on, you know. But I think what kind of just gets the film to that nice ending is when, you know, Godzilla does reappear, you know, after the military believe like they took him out, you know, and all the infants have been destroyed because like the military blew up, you know, Madison Square Garden, you know. Godzilla rises and there's the big like chase scene all the way onto the you know, Brooklyn Bridge, you know, where the military at the end are able to like get some nice, you know, piercing shots at the big beast, you know. And you know, he ends up finally meeting his end, you know. And it's just you know, for what it does at the end, that was the right way to go. And you know, you do get an Easter egg at the end of saying like, you know, one infant Godzilla was still. So yeah, man. As always, like I love to do, I'm gonna talk about the soundtrack in this film. I've always had the 1998 soundtrack version of Godzilla, you know, even though I never really watched the movie, because I've only really seen this film probably 3 times fully. You know, the first time in the cinema when it first was released, a couple times when I got it on VHS with the animated series, you know, which came out, which I'll talk a bit about more later, and also like on, you know, DVD, you know. The soundtrack is pretty decent, you know, for the time. It has a lot of like rock and roll and hip hop music of the 90s period and that. So like Puff Daddy, aka Sean Combs, you know, who I think at the time was just like getting into his own with the Bad Boys records, you know. going with Mace. You know, he had a real cool tune on this called "Come With Me," which was featured with like another rock artist. You know, "Come With Me." That's a real good track. You know, so that was one of like on the top of the playlist. You know, second track was Jamiroquai. Please tell me I said that right. He had a cool single called "Deeper Underground," you know, which shows which is combined with an excellent, fantastic video of like people in the theaters watching the Godzilla film, and like Godzilla like breaks through the screen, and you can see Jamiroquai like jumping on like cars and like debris, you know, trying to avoid like falling down. Deeper Underground, you know, and I really just love how playful they went with the music videos, you know, back then. You know, it's like that was a time when you really couldn't wait to watch MTV, you know, to watch the you know, watch these like music videos for the movies. You know, the rest of the soundtrack, you know, it's all like a nice blend, you know, of like, you know, rock, hip hop, you know. And I encourage anyone, like if they've not even seen they're not like the biggest fan of this film, you know, definitely grab that soundtrack. You know, you will not be disappointed. So yeah, man, Godzilla. Like the thing with this film that kind of gets unfair is because, you know, they ignored a lot of the traits that make Godzilla what Godzilla is, you know, and this is what some people kind of always bash this film with, because like they'll say like, you know, the new Godzilla, which I've not seen yet, or the sequel to that, that's way more faithful to the original, you know, design and the ideas of the creators, you know, what they wanted Godzilla to intended to be, you know, as idea. You know what I mean? So they will always say like that film's a better film, you know, and I wasn't too much of a fan to see the new one, you know, because I just felt it just, you know, again, we're, you know, just at a time where, you know, CGI is just used way more because it's there, you know, where I felt like with this film, CGI was there, but it was for the right places, you know, to put Godzilla, but they still focused more on like, you know, practical effects, you know, like when the, you know, when the chase is happening and you know, the yellow new NYC cabs running away from Godzilla, it's all shot in camera, you know, it's just focusing on like miniature and just like, you know, practical stage effects, you know, I always felt like it was trying to compete with like another film rather than just relying on its own, you know, story, you know what I mean? I feel like, you know, my biggest gripe with this film is just you know, it's like, okay, you can have like, you know, actors or characters that no one really cares about, you know, but when you've got the main film that's called Godzilla and it's like you spend less time with him, you know, you don't really know how like Godzilla thinks, because even though it's an animal, it's like he's played there as just a complete creature, but he's not there the whole film, you know. And this is not a suspense film. This is not like Alien, you know, where Alien you expect him, because that's a horror film, you expect to see like less is more, you know, and to have Godzilla in it for so less of the film, and the film's about like over 2 hours long, that's why I didn't kind of, you know, like it. I feel like the film, the whole time you're watching, you're just waiting for Godzilla to appear. So when he appears, it's just like he quickly, you know, he's running away to safety, he's running away to go hide, he attacks the military, and then it just happens again, you know, until at the end they finally capture him. The strong points is, you know, just seeing the visuals of New York City, you know, for someone who loves, you know, Times Squares and, you know, Brooklyn, and has been there a couple times. You know, I love seeing those visuals, you know. I love Jean Reno, like how he appears in it. It's just very, that's that cool, you know, French actor, you know. It's like, you know, he's not following the generic military because they don't know what they're doing. So he just aligns himself with Matthew Broderick, and he said, okay, this is the one who's going to help us get rid of this, you know, this mutated lizard, you know what I mean? So going on to that, who would I recommend this to? I'll just straight up say this is not better than Jurassic Park or Lost World. You know, those two movies have more an engaging story. You know, it really gets you in and it keeps you there. You know, I feel with this film, it's tremendous hype. And at the end, it just doesn't live up to the hype. But I would say if you're just looking for a nice, fun flick of a monster rampaging in an urban environment, definitely check this out. Thanks again, guys, for watching this review on Godzilla 1998. Stay tuned because I assure you more vids will be coming very, very soon. Peace. Two fingers.